Fan frustration with Alabama's running game is beginning to mount. Can the Tide get back to running the dadgum ball? Stick around. Let's talk about it. This is Way Off Sides. 3, 2, let's go. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome into Way Off Sides. That's Way with 4 A's. 3's not enough. 5's too many. Just like in the word Alabama. Tell them, Skip.
Way, this is all caps, W-A-A-A-A-Y, way.
Skip knows how to spell way. Offsides. Anyway, Alabama football is currently on a bye week. That's great. That's good. They need it. Get healthy. Got some key returners that'll be coming back after this bye week. Good Lord willing, or at least it sounds that way per head coach Kalen DeBoer. However, there is one glaring issue with the Tide that we've kind of already talked about. We're going to hit on a little bit more today, and that is the running game. Alabama traditionally has been a run-first offense, a powerhouse, a grinded-out type team. They call it joyless Merker ball. I won't say the actual word because this is YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about. However, something's been missing from this Tide team, and I think that there are two key things right now for Alabama that are keeping them from being championship level. The first is the pass rush, and well, really not necessarily the pass rush, but maybe more intensity on the defensive front, the ability to stop the run, the inside run, and rush the passer. And the other thing is their ability to run the ball. Now, I think Alabama can actually may be better at running the ball than we think, and we're going to get into that, so don't go anywhere. But before we get there, recruiting season's coming. You've got one Alabama defensive lineman commit who is going down to Miami this weekend. It's one we're keeping an eye on, as Tim Watts over at On3 says all the time at Bama Online. Follow the visits. He's not wrong. This is one we're going to watch. I've got a video on that you can go check out when you're done here. But we're bringing all of that news to you in one place. It could be recruiting, game analysis, just a good time on our lives. For those of you who haven't been around Way Offsides, we do things a little different than everybody else. Kind of keep it down home, kind of a vibe like your neighbors next door, and just have a good time, man. We don't take ourselves too serious. So do yourself a favor, become part of the Way Offsides family today. Before you leave, like this video, leave a big Roll Tide in the comment section, and subscribe. Okay? When you do, you might just get a round of applause. So, or one of these. Beautiful, right? All right, let's talk about Alabama's run game. Right now, Alabama is not sitting well when it comes to their rushing offense. I believe that they are at the bottom of the pack in terms of the SEC. They're down there, but in terms of the overall conference, college football, they're like 105th right now rushing offense. They're averaging 123.7 yards a game and 5 rushing TDs a game. Now, for instance, for comparative purposes, let's compare this to a top 10 team. We'll take Florida State out because, actually, let's do another SEC team. We'll take Missouri out of the equation. They're averaging 302 yards on the ground, 11 touchdowns on the season. Now, that 302 yards is per game. Pretty wild. So, we're working with a relatively small sample size here, right? We're working on 3 games. Now, the thing that you have to know about Alabama is Alabama has played 2 of the best run defenses in the country, statistically speaking, in 3 weeks. Florida State and Wisconsin. Okay. Now, Louisiana Monroe, they're sitting around 80th, somewhere in there. But Alabama had zero problem running the ball against ULM. I believe they ran the ball for 212 yards in that game. Threw it a lot more than they ran it, but they had no problem running. Now, first week, they go into FSU. We thought for sure that Alabama was going to focus on the run, and it seems like they tried to do it that first drive, you all remember. But Bama ends up finishing that game with 87 rushing yards. They get behind the sticks. They get behind on the scoreboard, completely abandon the run. All right. Kalen DeBoer famously says that there were no explosives, and so they started throwing the ball. He's right. There were no explosive plays on the ground. However, you didn't stick with the run long enough to allow that to develop. I think that's something that the staff understands and something that they'll tweak moving forward. We thought they would do that with Wisconsin. However, Alabama plays the Badgers at home this past weekend, and they only rush for 72 yards. Not great. Not great at all. Now, why? Well, Wisconsin's a little different. Wisconsin is a top 5 run defense right now. They're one of the best in the country at stopping the run. And they wanted to challenge Alabama's throwing game. They wanted to challenge the new quarterback at Alabama, so they stacked the box most of the game. They only, I think Alabama probably had 13, 17, 22 carries, something like that in the game. Now, Ty Simpson was the leading rusher in that game. I believe in terms of FSU, it was Kevin Riley, but he only ended up with 31 yards. Now, against ULM, what we're looking at here is it was obviously A.K. Deere because he broke off the one in garbage time. But again, Kevin Riley showed out. Now, controlling and looking at statistical measures you want to control. There's no real way to control via this sample size because we just simply don't know how good everybody is. But when we look at the rest of the conference and their ability to run the ball, and then we look at what Alabama's faced so far, Alabama has faced better run defenses than anybody else in the SEC. Through 3 weeks of football, I got to add that caveat. This is through 3 weeks of football. Okay, it's a small sample size, but it's looking like, at least it's trending towards, Alabama may actually be able to run the ball. They've just faced defenses that were able to shut it down. Now they're going to face another one when they go to Georgia. However, Georgia's secondary is not great. I think they're 80th in the country in pass defense. Alabama's passing offense is better than Georgia's. So Alabama has the potential to exploit that. But if Bama finds themselves in a game where they have to run the football, there's an issue. All right, it's going to be a problem. Now, where does the problem lie? Some of the problem lies in the coaching, right? Getting away from the run, not sticking with it. It's a fundamental principle in the SEC. You run the football. There's several reasons you run the football. You can control the game that way, right? You take time off the clock. Another big reason to run the football is it's safe, right? It's a safe way to get yardage. In some cases, short distances, it's a sure bet to pick up a first down. I think running the ball helps establish physicality on your offensive line, which I think Alabama's lacking in some areas. Now, there's a philosophy out there that there are some guys that are going to be kind of moved around on this offensive line. We saw Kalen DeBoer and Coach Cap do this last year. Leading into the Georgia game, there was a lot of movement until they found a solid place on their offensive line. The left side hasn't been as good as we hoped. The right side has not been that great. Of course, there's Parker Brailsford in there, the shining star. Caden Proctor is good, but he's just not living up to the hype, according to a lot of fans. But the right side of the line is where there's a lot of focus. Geno Vandermark, Wilkin Formby, but it's looking like you may potentially get some new faces in there. Okay. Michael Carroll, Jaden Roberts, who isn't a new face, but was projected before the season started to be the starter over there on the right side of that line. So that could make a big impact on Alabama's ability to run the ball. Now, the biggest factor here, obviously, without saying, is the fact that they've been without their leading rusher, their senior running back, their leader, their captain, the person with the most experience in the backfield, and that's Jam Miller. It's looking like Miller will be back for the Georgia game. However, I would expect his carries to probably be limited. Alabama will use him very similar to how they're using Kevin Riley. We saw them using Riley on the wheel routes and stuff against Wisconsin. They worked great. They love to do that with Jam Miller. They hit a big one against Georgia at home last year. So I'm interested to see how they utilize him, bringing him back from that injury. However, when we're talking about really ground and pound type football, I think Alabama's missing Jam Miller. I think there's a lot of inexperience back there. These running backs are great. Alabama has the best stable of running backs in the country. It's not close. And it seems like every week we're talking about a new kid and how good they look. Kevin Riley started the season 5th string running back, right? He's now getting the bulk of the carries, at least he did against Wisconsin. We all know about Daniel Hill. The dude is basically the same. He's a different kind of runner, but he's basically the same size as Derrick Henry when Henry was at Alabama. A.K. Deer has come in, and he's looked very, very good. Wouldn't be surprised to see his carries go up. But really, what Alabama's been missing back there at the jail is seniority and experience, and that's going to come with Jam Miller. I've noticed, especially the FSU game, Richard Young missed several holes in the offensive line and tried to bounce things outside when there was really no reason to. A couple of guys have done that. Draylen Washington's done it. And then obviously in the pass protection, which we're talking about running right now, but in the pass protection, we've seen some of those guys just get blown up by blitzes. So getting Jam Miller back there is going to be huge for Alabama. And I think there's the potential that the running statistic is a little skewed just because Alabama has been playing really good run defenses. And I think moving forward, obviously Georgia's going to be a run defense, a really good run defense. I think that they are. I'm going to bring them up and take a peek at it really quick. I think that they're like top 20 in the country, something like that. They're up there. And so once we can kind of get through this gauntlet, yeah, Georgia's sitting at number 20. Right now, what's interesting is right behind Georgia, guess who's sitting there? Vanderbilt. All right. We look in the top 20. You've got Auburn in there, who Alabama will play, right? LSU in there, who Alabama will play. Wisconsin's at number 4, actually technically tied for number 3 right now with Texas Tech. They're only allowing 46 yards on the ground per game. A crazy number. Georgia's allowing double that. So Alabama may have a little success running the ball. Depends on how creative they get. I do think that there's probably some things we haven't seen yet that they'll throw at Georgia, hopefully at Vanderbilt. I know Alabama fans don't like talking about Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt is a good team this year. Alabama's going to get them at home after the Georgia game. So assuming you have a Bama win, it kind of sets up for that same scenario that you had happen last season. But that is Alabama was on the road. It's a big factor in this game as well. Alabama playing on the road. So, but the ultimate point is that I do think that there's an obvious skew in what we're seeing out of Alabama's run game right now, and that it's probably better than what we think. I think there has to be some better play, physical play on the offensive line. That might come with getting Jam Miller back. That might come with some of these potential tweaks that we don't know for sure, but that could be made to the offensive line. But Alabama's got to figure out a way to run the ball. They do. They absolutely do. I know a lot of you are frustrated with it. I know fans are getting irritated with it, but I think that they'll figure it out. And again, don't forget, I know this offense doesn't feature the running back. It's not the primary goal of this Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb offense, but even at Washington, Pac-12, I know, but they had a 1,000-yard rusher. So it's not like running backs aren't going to be utilized in this system. Maybe underutilized right now, but I think we saw in the Wisconsin game, Alabama kind of went back to trying to run. At one point there, they got away from it. They went back to it late in the game to kind of put things away, but I would like them to be a little more consistent with that. Tell me your thoughts below. I want to hear how comfortable you are with Alabama's offense right now. Do you feel like they're hindered not running the ball? Do you feel like I'm right in that it's just a product of Alabama they're facing really good run defenses? Do you think the running game will be there? Do you think it's more about Jam Miller being out, the offensive line, all of the above? Tell me in the comment section below. And while you're there, please subscribe. Do me a favor, hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss anything. We've got so much stuff coming out this week. So much. Don't miss it. Thanks for sticking around with me. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.